Hello, today we are learning about solving quadratic functions, and the way we know how to do that is through graphing. So we're going to graph quadratic functions and see their solutions. Well, what's their solutions? That's what we need to think about. For solutions is another way to say that, like what is my solution? It's your x-intercepts. Another way to say that is also zeros. So solutions equals x-intercepts equals zeros. So all of those words are interchangeable. Whichever one you hear, they all mean the same thing. Okay, so for example, if you were given this graph, and I'm going to bring it closer so you can really see it. If you're given that graph, what are your solutions? Well, a lot of times students want to say your y-intercept is your solution, but it's not -4. It's not your y-intercept, it's those x-intercepts. So there's two of them because the parabola crosses the x-axis at two different places, at -2 and +2. So our solutions are -2 and 2. Okay, not 3. That would be if it were right there, but it's not. -2 and 2 are my solutions. Okay? Let's take it back. So now let's expect you to graph these on your own and then find your solutions based off of that. So let's do it together. So say we have this equation, example 2, solve x squared minus 2x equals 3 by graphing. So note here, we need standard form in order to start this, right? We need it equaling 0 or equaling y or even equaling f of x. They all mean the same thing. You have your standard form x squared plus bx plus c on one side, and the other side is either f of x, y, or 0. Okay. So in order for us to get 3 to the other side, we subtract 3 over. That gives us x squared minus 2x minus 3, and that equals then 0. Yay, we're set up for standard form. We can evaluate our a, b, and c now. What's our a? It's 1. We can identify, not evaluate. Identify our b is -2 and our c is -3. Check. Now we can find our axis of symmetry, find our vertex, graph that line, make table values, not the line, but the parabola. So our axis of symmetry we find by doing the opposite of b over 2a, x equaling that. So opposite of -2 is +2, over 2 times a, which is 1. 2 over 2 is 1. So my axis of symmetry is x equals 1. Then, in order for me to find my vertex, I need my y value. I replace 0 with y because that's the replacement in order to find my y value, right? Y equals this. So I've got my 1 in for x. That's my axis of symmetry. That's my x value. And 1 squared is 1. -2 times 1 is -2. And -3 just comes down. 1 minus 2 is -1. -1 minus 3 is -4. So I have y equaling -4, giving me this vertex here. So then I go and I draw my coordinate plane. I add in my axis of symmetry. Excuse me, I label it x equals 1. I add in my vertex 1, 4, plot that point, not point. And then from here, I need to find the points that are outside of that. So here's 1, so I need 2 points to the right and 2 points to the left. So I set up my table of values, putting my vertex in the middle. I have the x value of 2, 3 on the right, and 0, -1 on the left. I only need to pick 2 of them, so I'm going to pick these 2. You could also plug in 2 and 3 if you'd prefer. When I plugged in -1 for x, go ahead and do so, by the way. You can always pause the video. -1 for x, I get -1 squared, that's 1. -2 times -1 is +2. 1 and 2 is 3. 3 minus 3 is 0. So when x is -1, y is 0. That also means when x is 3, y is 0. Now I plug in 0. 0 squared is 0. -2 times 0 is 0. 0 and 0 is 0. 0 minus 3 is -3. So I have that value there, -3, which makes this value also -3. Oh, I see what I did there. I had this point y equals -4, but I wrote +4, plotting my point at the wrong place. And I realized through making my table of values that my graph was going to be this weird looking not parabola figure. So that's a good hint that you made a mistake. No big deal, we can fix it. So instead of my vertex being up here, it's actually down here at 1, -4. And then I plot my other points. My y-intercept is -3. Opposite side is the reflection. Then I also have the point -1, 0. And I have the point 3, 0. And when I go and graph this parabola, there it is. Hopefully do a better job than that. And then remember, I needed to solve. We are solving quadratic functions. The direction said to solve by graphing. Well, what's my solution for this graph? It's my x-intercepts. So my solution, my answer is x equals -1 and 3. There we go. You could put a comma in between, no parentheses. That tells you that x equals both of those. Or you can write x equals -1 and 3. Both answers are acceptable. Cool.